Have you ever wondered why some kids struggle to focus in class, feel anxious for no reason, or have mood swings that seem unpredictable? What if the answer lies deep in their stomach?
I'm Prashi, a senior in high school and a youth researcher. The gut microbiome is one of the most fascinating discoveries in science. Trillions of bacteria that live in our digestive systems. They don't just help us break down food, they also communicate with our brain through chemicals and signals, influencing everything from memory to emotions. This documentary explores how synthetic food compounds influence not only the microbiome, but also, in turn, neurological development in children.
Inside every one of us is a vast microbial world. Bacteria, viruses, and fungi living in harmony in our intestines. This is the gut microbiome, and it has a direct connection to the brain.
But essentially, the gut and brain are related to each other because, once again, the gut is a neurologic organ. There's a lot of nerves and interactions with muscles that go to the spinal cord. What goes on in your gut causes release of specific neurotransmitters that then can go to your brain and affect your brain. So, this can be altered by inflammation, different types of bacteria, and different types of foods that you ingest. So there are some people who believe that the microbiome can effectively cause changes that would affect your overall mood, your overall ability to act and interact with your environment, and so forth. Really, a healthy gut, is the foundation of health.
But the gut doesn't just affect the brain, it affects the whole body. Dr. Sears' research shows teenagers developing colon cancer, which is unusual, and points to environmental factors and diet as possible reasons.
We think that the microbiome plays a role probably in a variety of cancers in one way or another. So there's a strong association between members of the microbiota and colon cancer, I would say progression. Even teenagers are being diagnosed with colon cancer, which is obviously extraordinary. So there's a pretty large assumption that early life diet, early life activity, early life environmental conditions are probably shifted in a way that is allowing promotion of early onset cancers, not only in the gut, but I know this is true across several cancers.
When the gut microbiome is disrupted, the brain feels it. Research shows links between gut imbalances and conditions such as ADHD and anxiety.
If you're really stressed, that affects your bowels. So stress, anxiety, and stuff like that can affect your bowels, and that it can either cause an increase in activity, sometimes a decrease in activity, and that's based on a balance between your sympathetic and your parasympathetic tone. Now, there's also the idea that what goes on in your gut causes release of specific neurotransmitters that then can go to your brain and affect your brain. So, this can be altered by inflammation, different types of bacteria, and different types of foods that you ingest. So there are some people who believe that the microbiome can effectively cause changes that would affect your overall mood, your overall ability to act and interact with your environment. So we think that when you're, using ultra processed foods, they're usually high in sugar, these additives, these chemicals and preservatives. So they're not the best thing. They can harm, the good bacteria. They can affect the lining of the gut. They can affect the enzymes that line the gut. So we definitely know that these ultra processed foods are not great for the gut.
One major cause of gut disruption: ultra-processed snacks. full of sugar, preservatives, and artificial dyes.
Ultra-processed foods may impact mood in a really problematic way. So these ultra-processed foods are not allowing for some of that microbiome diversity, and we know that that can communicate with the brain and affect our mood and our behavior.
Highly processed snacks and candies like gummy stuff,
Yeah.
all of those gummy things, they have like a lot of binders and these, and you got to be careful because even sugar-free can have these kind of sorbitol-like products that really affect the GI tract. We've gotten a little crazy with artificial, additives just for color and making things look pretty. I do think we've got to start thinking about, are these really like important? Like, does it really matter what the food looks like? A lot of it was an advertising ploy. Like, if Fruit Loops tasted the same but weren't different colors, would I not want to eat it? I don't know.
Ultra processed basically means that the food has been sort of stripped of its natural fiber and things have been added to give it shelf life. So that could be anything from, protein powders to chips and cookies and, and breads that could not get moldy and sort of live on the shelf for a lot longer. Then you have things that are packaged but not processed, like canned beans, for example. So that's a great example of something that comes in a can, but isn't really working against us as much as some of these like instantaneous snack foods. They contain what are called emulsifiers, and emulsifiers are really meant to like help give the food a better mouthfeel, but also help it live on the shelves for many years. Right now, what we see is that emulsifiers might attach to the intestinal wall, and they might disrupt bacteria, and they may allow more sort of autoimmune processes to take over. So that's sort of one theory. We also think there could be more allergic bowel diseases, eczema, atopic dermatitis, other conditions that we might see because of more of these these additives. And then there's things like food dyes and high fructose corn syrup that, in small doses every once in a while, not a big deal. But many of us eat these in big doses regularly. And that sort of volume of these artificial foods really contributes to a much more pro-inflammatory gut bacteria profile.
For many families, the first signs are behavioral. Tantrums, sleep issues, or anxiety that don't respond to typical fixes. Could you share your daughter's experiences with gut health issues?
Then she was asked to restrict, just cut off few food from her diet. So she started with lactose first. So that really helped. Gluten helped, but not that much. Some particular breads, I won't name the brand, but that particular bread really triggered it. So she stopped eating that bread.
I think when she was about 3 years, we started seeing some changes which we did not understand what it was. And when I say changes, I'm talking about reacting to foods. Anything more processed, for instance, cheese, which is pretty processed, she reacts with a severe stomachache. I noticed every time you gave her that fresh food, I did not see her reacting to it. But whenever I gave food either from outside or anything processed, packaged, I did see that she was reacting. If not immediately, I would see her reacting maybe a few hours later or maybe even the next day. In my world as a mom, I've seen that there is a difference between giving her cooked, which is fresh from scratch, as opposed to anything which is packaged, food color, in certain hotels that we've been to, restaurants, I mean, if she's had any particular dyed food like chicken and things, you would see her reacting again. Due to all that, hospital stay and everything, she developed anxiety to a level where she started imagining people who don't exist. And she's constantly like, she's there. Initially, when the temperature was too high, I can understand she's hallucinating, like someone is coming trying to kill her and things like that. It went to that level, which was alarming.
This topic became personal for me when my own sister was hospitalized with severe gut pain. She had been struggling for months with anxiety, hyperactivity, focus issues, yet doctors could not explain what was wrong. Every test came back normal. No answers, just more symptoms. Until one day, we started focusing on her diet. We removed processed snacks, artificial dyes, and sugar-loaded foods. We introduced more whole foods, veggies, fibers, and gut-friendly meals. Over time, not only did her stomach pain ease, but her anxiety and attention improved as well. It changed her life and our family's perspective on how powerful food really is. The gut is resilient. Small changes can make a big difference.
Part of optimal gut brain health are the things that we already know are good for health in general, right? So like keeping recess, even for older kids, right? Like have more physical activity and time for movement. Maybe doing stretch breaks throughout the day, making sure kids aren't just on screens, right? Those kinds of things are really important. So making sure movement is kept in the day. There is a lot of, I think, attention being paid to school diets, but for what's available in cafeterias to make sure that as much as possible that there are fruits and vegetables and whole grains and lean proteins available to kids, and that the diets at schools aren't just like chips and highly processed lunch meats and cookies and things like that.
People try to insert or layer in plant-based foods every time they're eating. That's another thing in the US we've gotten really away from, making sure that we have access to good, healthy foods. These are really important for kids and families where there's this brain gut piece that's so important. Ground flax and oat have a really unique ability to be able to sort of do other things like manage cholesterol, manage blood sugars. And people find that they get a lot of lower GI symptom relief, which also helps to equate to giving them less stress, less anticipatory anxiety. So the brain and the gut symptoms are very interconnected. Soy gets a terrible reputation undeservingly. Soy is incredibly healthy for us. It doesn't increase our risk of cancer. It decreases cardiovascular disease and is a wonderful substitute for red and processed meats.
Our gut is more than a digestive machine. It is a communication center between the belly and the brain.
The future of brain health begins in the stomach. It's time to rethink our snacks, our school lunches, and what we feed our kids, because a healthy gut could be the key to a healthy mind.